Just like that, my man, we are officially recording.
All right.
Welcome to episode 39 of the Ministry of Freedom show. That guy on the other side of the screen is our friend James Ross. Say hey, James.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Hey, dude. So we'll get to you before we dive in. Guys, if it's on your heart to support the show, there's a few ways to do so. I want to talk about that before we jump into James's story. First off, share the show with those in your sphere of influence. James, you watch the show?
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes. I
A
had,
few episodes. So
yep,
that's kind of yes, kind of
I don't
no.
know. Yeah,
We've had, this is number 39. So, okay, that's
yeah,
all right. I appreciate that. I
yeah,
appreciate your honesty. So maybe start, if you would, share the show, at least share this show, right?
yeah, yeah.
Second, guys, go on to one of the support the podcast links, and they're on all the platforms. That's where you can become a monthly partner to help contribute to the cause. I also wrote a book. It's available on Amazon, so please pick up a copy or two. That helps support the show. All right, moment of truth. James, you buy a book yet?
No, not yet.
Did you know I wrote a book?
Not until about 2 days ago.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
audience, we have lost touch, James and I, over the last 15 years. We really don't know much about each other. This is going to be kind of fun. So maybe pick up a book if you're so inclined. I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
And so I'm in the process also becoming a brand ambassador for a few different brands. So there's a athletic apparel company, a supplement company. So I would encourage everyone, keep an eye on my Instagram and Facebook to see what those companies are. And if you're interested in checking them out, you can use the discount code that I'll put up there, save money. It helps support the mission at the same time. Also, one more thing. So I'm putting together, speaking of the book, a Q&A episode. So people can ask anything they want regarding what they read in the book. So I'd like to get that out over the next few weeks. So pick up the book, get it read. If you got some questions, if you're curious about anything, everything's on the table. Submit those questions to the show's email. That is social@ministryoffreedom.show. Can also send questions to my Instagram. I'm at Real Jim Moats. You can Facebook me or message me on Facebook. Jim Moats, pretty simple. And I'll be sure I get those. So I'm trying to get used to James because so you still got the ponytail?
Still got it.
Okay. So I used to call James PT. We called him that. It was short for ponytail. So I called him PT. Then it was just JR for James Ross. So I might slip up and go with JR. So forgive me. Welcome, man. I appreciate you doing this.
No problem.
We connected, it wasn't that long ago, just about a week ago through a little bit of messaging on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what an interesting show this could be to bring you on and catch up. And I was thinking, I think you thought it'd be a good idea. Maybe we talk first and catch up and talk about the show. And I said, hey, let's not do that.
Yeah.
So you and I, up until literally 10 minutes ago, haven't spoken in how many years?
Oh, geez, probably since 2012.
So is that about when you left the car business?
I think so, because that's when I moved to Vegas. It was around 2010. Yeah, 2010. Because we moved out to Vegas in 2010, and we came back to Grand Island in 2012. So yeah, 2010.
Yeah. So we're 14 years without talking, communicating in social media, seeing each other, no nothing. So this is a total catch up with each other and giving the audience your background and your story. And the reason that anyone's welcome to come on the show, but one of the reasons that when I connected with you on Facebook, I thought this would be a good guest is because overcomers inspire me. And I think I'm a bit of an overcomer, and I know you're a lot of an overcomer, man. And your story is amazing. And I have so much respect for you, what you've done and who you are. And I just think, man, the audience is going to get a value from hearing your story. So we'll catch up at the same time that we're bringing the audience into the loop about who you are.
Okay.
So if I say anything the dates are goofed up or whatever, jump in and correct me.
All right.
But we worked at the same dealership. So you sold cars at the dealership I was a sales manager at.
Yep.
And did you start in around maybe 04, 05? Am I close?
think it was '06 when I got out. So I was detailing, I think, then. And then
Okay.
so it was '06, and then I ended up working, I think, for Brian, and then
Okay.
switched back over when I came over to your store. Yeah.
So I remember specifically you being there in 2007, and I'll tell you why that sticks out to me is because we had a couple different stores in the metro at that time, and we were in direct competition with each other.
Yeah.
August of 2007, there was a contest that the sales manager of the winning store that month earned a Rolex Submariner watch. Do you remember this contest situation?
I
I
think
remember
so,
it because I have the watch.
because we was stayed open late, didn't we,
Yes.
that night,
So
11,
on the
12.
final day of the
Yep.
month, and I'll never
Yep.
forget this. I was talking with Chris King about this not that long ago. At the end of that month, August of 2007, our store was behind by a couple car deals. And our hours typically we closed at 8 o'clock. So the other store that was in Omaha, and we were in Council Bluffs at the time, that store closed right at 8 o'clock. They had a comfortable lead, and we all agreed as a team, let's stay open and see if we can beat them. So
Yep.
we sat there. We didn't get the last customer out of there till about midnight.
Yep.
And we ended up beating them by one car deal. And I remember you got the car deal that pushed us over the edge and that allowed us to win that contest. And I still have that Rolex to
Oh,
this
nice.
day. And it means a lot to me, not because I mean it's a Rolex, it's cool, but
Yeah.
because I think back to the stories and the hard work and everybody that contributed to that and how much that meant to me. And so man, if I haven't told you in a lot of years, thank you for everything that you did for me professionally,
Yeah.
because you were, man, you're a hardworking guy, and I'll never forget that month. There was a lot of victory in that month, and
Yeah.
that next day when that other dude realized he got beat, oh man, because all he knew is when he was going to bed, he had this thing locked up and he was picking up his watch the
Yep.
next day. But no,
Yep.
it didn't work out for him. It didn't
Oh, yeah.
quite work out for him. So thank
No.
you for that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to whatever beginning you'd like to start at. So maybe high school. We're going to get to a place where you talk about something got off the rails a little bit, and you said you came on board in 2006 in the car business because you got out.
Yep.
So getting out means you end up going in.
Yep.
So the
Yep.
floor is yours. Start where you want to start, and I might jump in with a couple questions and stuff because the story you're about to tell, I don't know much about. So I'm just as curious as the audience is going to be, and I'm excited to hear it. So the floor is yours, my man.
All right. Well, I guess for me, it probably would have started back in, probably when before I was 12. I just was a problem child. But once I got 13, 14, then, running with the wrong crowd, started doing heavy drugs, ended up in youth development center in Kearney multiple times.
Where were you living at that time?
Grand Island at that time.
Okay.
Yep. I was in Grand Island. I think I got institutionally discharged from the YDC and after I got my GED. And I met the mother of my two daughters, and it was rocky going back and forth. I tried to get clean, in and out of treatment, and by the time I would turn 18, just almost 19, I caught a slew of cases out of Grand Island, Kearney, Hastings, Aurora.
What were those cases? What were you charged with?
Some of them were assault on a police officer, burglary, forgery, terroristic threats, some other assaults. Yeah, I think I had over 40 misdemeanors, 20 felonies by the time.
Okay.
By the time it was all said and done.
And you're still 18, 19 at this time?
Yeah, I think I was just at the end of I was just getting ready to turn 19 at that time.
Okay. So then you get picked up and charged with all these things and go to court, and then what?
Then the judge gave me 4 to 17 years. So, 17 years to jam minutes. You got to do 8 years. I fought it for probably a year and a half, and I ended up getting him to run some of the charges concurrent, and it dropped it down to 2.5 years, but 2 to 12 years. But I still did 8 years because I was an idiot inside, and
Oh,
yeah, so I was fighting all the time and getting in trouble, and
man.
yeah,
So 8 years inside, and you went in at 19?
19. Yeah,
Okay. So 19 till 27,
yeah.
you're incarcerated. Where were you? In Lincoln?
Lincoln. I was at LCC back in the day when it was, yeah, when it was just off the chain out there. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow.
yeah. It was rough.
Yeah. So it's everything that we've seen on TV and worse, and
Yeah.
hell on earth for 8 years.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's, I mean, there's a lot of racially motivated stuff in there. So I
Yeah.
mean, and that's when they had a couple big riots on the yard. 9 guards got hurt real bad, and
Man.
yeah, I mean, if you didn't know somebody, you weren't walking the yard by yourself back then.
Yeah.
It was.
Gang activity inside.
Oh yeah.
Um, did you participate in any of that? Did you feel the need to? You got to get hooked up with somebody.
I did in a way. Before I even hit the yard, I got tattooed white pride on the back of my arms, and that caused a lot of problems as soon as I hit the yard. But you know, I knew some fellows in there, so we kind of ran together. But there
Did
was
you get the
still
Did you get the tattoos outside before you went in?
no. I was in D&E when I got them. I hand yeah
Oh yeah,
homemade tattoo gun. So
yeah.
yeah, so
I remember you having a lot of tattoos, man.
still do, still
Yeah,
do.
yeah. That's funny how that works with tattoos. Yeah.
Yeah,
So what I meant to say was, I remember you have a lot of tattoos.
yeah,
Yeah.
quite a bit. Yeah.
So you get out in Lincoln, unless you can unpack as much of that time as you want. I mean, I don't know how much of that you want to dive into. I find it interesting. The audience would, I'm sure, if you want to get past that and like, hey, I want to talk about when I got out, I'm good with whatever you want to dive into.
Yeah, I mean it is whatever. I mean a lot of people see the shows. They know how prison is, and I mean that's basically how it goes, And you know, I've seen a guy get killed over a $5 can of bugler one day. I mean,
Man,
guys come up in his cell and with pencils and just stabbed. I don't remember how many times they stabbed that guy, but it was yeah. And I mean, there was times I'd come out of my room and I'd have 7, 8 guys on me, and we'd be banging out, and you know, so. But as far as I mean, so you had your solid people in there, but there was a lot of dudes that in the cliques and stuff. They just turned their back and head the other way because they were scared, And
yeah,
for me, I was just stubborn. I just want to go, let's go.
yeah.
But
And I love that about your personality. It's such an interesting dichotomy because I would have never believed that was part of your life when we were together working each day, because you're obviously, I mean, you're physically a strong looking guy, and you carry yourself like, no one's going to jack with you, and you can just tell dudes that aren't down to get messed with.
yeah,
So you carried yourself that way all the time, but always such a, well, I guess a soft heart is the way I would approach it. And I'm not trying to embarrass
no,
you, but
no, yeah,
you just were you're such a kind dude. I remember that about you. I'm like, I can't believe this guy was inside for this long, and he's this tough guy with these tattoos, and man, your heart is just like, man, it just doesn't line up with that. You talk about there's good guys in there. You were one of the good guys in there, bro.
yeah,
um you just, you did what you had to do, and I guess it turned into 8 years, man.
yeah, yep.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
man. So you get out, you're in Lincoln, you get released. Are you 27 at this point? Is that what we figured?
yeah. 27 years old.
Okay. And then what? So what's life like? Okay, I get out. You're on supervised. Is it parole? You still have
No,
to.
I actually jammed out on that number. They wouldn't give me parole. I was turned down for parole like 3 times. So dirty UAs, stuff
Oh,
like
no
that.
kidding.
Yeah. So I jammed the whole number.
Oh, so the whole thing. So you get out, and do you owe them anything else, a probation or anything?
Nothing.
So you're
No.
just done.
Done. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I hooked up. Well, before I even got out, that's when I was introduced to meth. Was in prison for the first time.
So you did meth the first time in prison.
Yep. I was prior a year before I got out, 27, and it's the first time I ever tried it. So and I liked it. You know, back before I went in, it was Coke was the big deal. That's what a lot of my stuff stemmed from. But
Yeah.
once I started doing the meth, well, I ended up hooking up with a nurse that was at the prison I was at, and she was probably 20 years older than me, and moved in with her, and she did just as much. I mean, you know, she loved the dope, and
Let's not gloss over this. So, so you get out
yeah,
and you hook up with a nurse who's 20 years older who worked at the facility that you were doing time in.
yeah,
Okay. And so I'll ask you all kinds of stuff. And if you don't want to answer anything, you don't have to.
yeah,
So she was a nurse working there while you were inside.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
So you have some sort of relationship with her at this time.
Well, not really. She just, you know, we did a lot of talking, but as far as
Okay.
anything else, nothing went on. But
Did you know that she was using dope at the time?
I didn't. But
Oh,
you know, she kind of covered up on one of my UAs for me.
okay.
So, you know, but I didn't know really she did it until a couple nights after I got out.
Dang. All right. So this is starting to get good. So you're hooked up with this gal and you move in with her.
Yep, right
She,
away.
she lives in Lincoln.
No, she lived in. I went back to Grand Island to my folks's,
Oh,
and
okay.
then a couple nights later we hooked up, and she lived in Wood River, which is like 15 minutes away from Grand Island. So,
Got you.
moved in with her. Her husband had been killed. Um, he got hit by a train. So, you know, I moved in with her, and it was, yeah, it was crazy because, yeah,
So you get in pretty much both feet in the meth world at that point.
yeah.
She's using, you're using, and I'm guessing at some point you get to a place where you're going to start selling a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, she's 27 years older than I were, 20 years older than I was, and she had a lot of connections that she set me up with, and you know, it's easier to sell it than pay for it. So
For sure. I get that.
yeah, so I'm running all over Nebraska, you know, dropping off stuff and staying high 24/7. I mean, there wasn't a day that we didn't get high.
Is
So
she still keeping her job at the prison?
she did for a while until it really started getting
Get that
crazy.
bad.
Yep, and fighting, and just she ended up quitting her job, and yeah, it's we just I mean she was getting all these settlements too, so I mean we was doing a lot of traveling. We just pick up, not even pack clothes, and jump in the truck and go, you know, head to the mountains or whatever.
Wow.
And it was yeah until yeah it got really bad towards the end, and yeah.
All right. So how does this season of life end? Because at
Well,
some point you're not with her anymore. Do you end up back inside at some point?
yeah, I wasn't out probably for a year, and uh, I was dealing with some guys and had a bunch of guns brought to me, you know, and so I was getting rid of some guns, and next thing you know, people are getting busted because wherever the guns came from was the burglary. So and I think it ended up being a state patrol's house that they'd got them. So yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
So next thing I know, I'm getting my door kicked in at the motel, and you know, surrounded by the ATF, and off here we go.
So is that federal stuff they're going to ring you up on at this point?
Yeah, it was federal. Yeah, yep. I was looking at well, I had 2 felon in possession of firearms, um, and then you know, I hired a lawyer. My lawyer's like, well, this is the best you can get. You know, you're going to go do 10 years. So and in the feds, there's no leeway. I mean, you're
Yeah, you
just
do like 85%, don't you? I mean,
yeah,
something.
yeah, 85%. So
So you're going for another 8 to 9 years
yep,
at federal this time?
federal this time.
Where
Yep.
was that time done?
Most of it was done in Florence, Colorado, at the FCI up there. Yeah, it was a medium high. That's kind of where they sent everybody that was getting ready to either go to USP right there on the mountain or The Supermax was on the mountain
Yeah,
too.
the Supermax is in the same area, right? Like the
Yeah.
most secure prison in the country, supposedly.
Yep. They're all right there all together on that same mountain. Yeah.
Wow. So I'm just trying to keep the timeline straight.
Okay.
I'm guessing we're around 28 years old
Yep. Yep.
ish.
Yep.
So you're until your mid 30s, you're going to be incarcerated again.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Anything eventful about that stretch that jumps out that you want to share, or do you want to jump to, okay, it's time to get out of bed?
As far as that stretch, how it was, or
Mhm.
I mean, it was better than the state. I'll put it that way.
Was it really?
Yeah, I mean, it's more controlled. There's not so many. I mean, you got your idiots, but it's more controlled. I mean, you weren't just going and pulling stuff without. They had their ranks and the shot callers, and if you wanted to go do something to somebody, you better be talking to your people first, the head guy.
So a little bit more of an organizational structure that
Yeah,
made it a
yeah,
little more livable.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah. But I mean, when something would pop off in there, I mean, it was there. Usually, bodies were dropping, and cops were on the back of the truck shooting in the yard. You know,
Man.
yeah. So I mean, it's different ways. It's good in one way, but when it pops off, you know you're in trouble.
So did you do 8.5 or longer?
I think it was 8.5. I did the RDAP, so I got out. I got like 18 months for the RDAP and stuff.
What does that mean?
Residential inpatient treatment. It
Okay.
was a 9-month program.
Okay.
So you get time off, and then you get extra halfway house time. So
At this point, though, you're in your mid 30s and you've been incarcerated for, shoot, what did we think here? 16, 17 years of your adult life?
yeah, yeah,
So, man, essentially from 18 until
yeah,
35, 36 ish, other than a year?
yeah, pretty
Man.
much. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. I don't know. I was. The
Wow.
drugs had such a hold that
Yeah.
you
So
know.
did you use in federal? Were you able to?
I mean, not the hard stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of it around, but
Yeah.
um, I got high and smoked weed and stuff, but as far as the hard stuff, I didn't really have the money to do that, because I didn't have anybody on the streets, except my
Gotcha.
parents. And if they sent me money, I used that for stuff I needed to get.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
yeah, phone calls and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So what year are we up to when you're going to get out of bed? You're going to go to a halfway house. Is the halfway house in Colorado? Where would you do that at? Or is it?
It was in Council Bluffs.
Oh, it was.
Yeah,
So
I
the
think it was.
Ninth Avenue place?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, into 2006, almost 2007. Right there by ConAgra over there, they had a halfway house.
Yeah. So that was pretty close to the dealership where you and I worked together.
Yep.
So were you living in the halfway house when you started working with us?
I was living in the halfway house when I started detailing cars at Lake Manawa.
Yeah.
Amy, remember, I think it was Amy down there, the service
Yeah.
director.
She's still down there.
Yep. She got me a job. She knew the background. She got me hired on.
Nice.
It was real decent, and so I worked there for a while. Well, then I went over to the Automart 150 off of L Street, or 84th now.
Yeah.
And I believe Brian, he asked me one day, he said, "You want to give it a shot at selling cars?" And I said, "Well, yeah, probably better than detail."
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, so I gave it a shot, and seemed to do pretty good at it. So,
Man.
yeah, went to Nissan, and I think once they closed that one down, I went over to Nissan when they closed it, and then from Nissan over to your store after that.
Yeah. Man.
Yep.
Yeah. So that takes us into around 2007.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So I didn't really know all of this about you. Even, we spent a lot of time together. I still didn't have any idea that you did that much time, I don't think. I mean, not that it would have mattered. I mean,
Yeah.
I enjoyed working with you, man, and I think everybody deserves another shot. And you're a great example of that. But yeah, that's crazy to think about. So let's get to the Automart time then. How long? Do you remember how long you and I did work together? Was it a couple of years?
I think it was. I think I think it was a couple years. Yeah, and I mean, man, I'm surprised I was there that long with you because, I
Well,
mean, yeah, you remember the bullcrap, you know?
so you and I had our go rounds for sure.
Yeah,
Now I'll say this: I was pretty tough to work with. Um, I'm a little different dude now, but I was pretty well on fire at that point. Um, and now I could be wrong here, but I don't think you were exactly clean, sober, and walking the straight and narrow while you were selling cars with me. Is that a fair thing to say?
that's a fair thing to say. Yeah, yeah,
And we had a crew that somehow got together down there that I think fed into that with you a little bit. And it was a constant battle with me to try to be like, man, what are we doing here?
yeah,
Um, and there was a lot of stuff kind of going on under my nose that some I was aware of and most I wasn't.
yeah,
But yeah, I remember you and I having some issues at times, and I think it largely stemmed from that.
yeah. It did. I calling in and stuff, and then
Yeah. And
not
then sometimes sitting there at your desk, I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy looks like he's about ready to chew his own face off. What are we doing? What is
yeah,
going on here?
yeah. That's true. Yeah, because I mean, God, I remember because we just, I mean, like you said, everybody fed into it, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think we were all ex addicts,
for sure. So
and
everybody that worked there, me included, had a history with alcohol and drug abuse.
yeah,
Um, and it just got really, really weird. I'm trying to think of who was working with us at time. So Chris King was working with us then.
yep,
I think Aaron was working with us.
yep.
So I actually was texting back and forth with Aaron this morning. He wanted to make sure I tell you hello.
Oh,
Um, so I met with him last week for a couple hours. So I still keep in contact with him. I keep in good contact with King as well. Um, so I remember Jamie worked with us too. You remember Jamie?
yep.
What?
I still see her once in a while.
You do?
Yeah, I seen her. Well, it's probably been almost 2 years ago when I went back in again. So it was right before that I seen her one day. So I mean, we kind of keep in contact. I talk to her every once in a blue moon.
No kidding. So yeah, she worked with me again in like, I don't even know, 2015, 2016, maybe something like that. And we ended up having a parting of ways, and I haven't talked to her since then.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, there was a dude named Marty that worked with us. You remember Marty? Uh,
Vaguely, I remember. I think so because.
Older dude, heavy set.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I just want to be careful. I don't even know if these people are still alive or, but yeah, I just want to be careful about what I'm throwing out there to
Yeah.
the world. Um, but there was certainly, did you work with Marco?
I don't think Marco was there. Steve was there.
Steve. Yeah, Steve is still there.
Oh yeah. Really.
Yeah,
Yep.
Steve is still there. Um, so yeah, I remember us working together for a couple of years. So I think you said just something a few seconds ago. If you went back in,
Uh, twice since.
okay. I had no idea about that. I have no idea what happened after like '08 until 25 minutes ago. So that's the part I'm like, I got no idea where this guy's been or what he's doing.
Yeah.
So this is going to be, I hope, as interesting for the audience as it is for me, because I'm so curious, man. But whatever it is, you're in a pretty good place now. I mean,
Yeah.
by all accounts.
Yeah.
And you're still married to the gal you were with when I knew you back
Yep.
in the day.
Yep.
So good on her too,
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
sure you were a handful, bro.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was a handful. I mean, I mean, it's been 18 years now,
Dang, good for
and
you, man.
it's, yeah, it's been rough patches. I mean, especially because after I left you guys, I think around 2010. Um,
So let's start there. So you went to Las Vegas
yep.
with,
We
with your wife.
figured, yep, we figured a change would be good.
Okay.
Because I mean, it was really bad. I had some of the stories, and I don't like glorifying, but I was up at the point where I was up at the federal building, uh, telling probation officers off, taking license plate numbers down, and it was just,
Wow.
and my wife, she was on probation at that time, so her probation officer's telling her, you need to get away from this guy.
Yeah.
He's chasing federal agents down, trying to run them off the road.
Yeah,
So
that's a problem.
yeah, so I ended up getting, I think, 4 months in Douglas County Jail. And as soon as I got out, we headed to Vegas.
Okay.
Her son and daughter and them were down there and the grandkids. So we figured we go down there and try to get clean. And
Was she struggling at this time too, dude?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. She was struggling too. And, it just, I mean, you can only live with somebody for so long and stay clean. And before, I
That's not going
mean,
to work. Yeah.
yeah, it's not going to work. There's a breaking point sooner or later, So,
Yeah.
and it got bad out there, and we was bringing the issues around our kids and stuff, and we're like, well, 2 years down there, and we head back to Grand Island, where my folks.
Okay. Are your
And
folks still in Grand Island? Are they still
yeah, they're still in Grand Island. Yep,
okay?
they're
Do you have a
they're up.
relationship with them?
Yeah, I do now. I mean, I've put them through a lot of hell,
Yeah.
a lot of stress. I mean, they've seen me at my worst time, especially when I moved back from Vegas and lived with them, me and my wife. And I mean, you see me at work, come in like I was, and
Yeah.
I was probably worse than that over there.
Wow.
And they just, it's hard because I see my dad and stuff, some of the stuff, and he didn't say a lot. My mom's more the vocal person, but just some of the stuff I can remember, little
Yeah.
tidbits, like, one day my dad, he found a syringe, and I'm out in the garage. He comes out there and gives it to me. So you better put that crap up before your mom gets home. And I'm like, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough, man.
it's
Um,
really tough.
so you're back in Grand Island with the wife,
Yeah.
and I keep saying the wife. I mean, I know her name. Is it okay for me to say her name?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so Jerry. So you're with Jerry, and I always really like Jerry too.
Yeah.
And Buffalo Wild Wings. Um, Jerry worked at Buffalo Wild Wings back in the day, and I found out before we started recording, still does.
Yep. Still
So
does.
good on her. Um, so you're back in Grand Island. So you two are living with your folks. And what are you doing for work? What do your days look like? And what's next?
Well, doing what he's doing. I like to, we would go out and
So
dump
you're
and hide.
hustling, selling dope.
Yeah. Well, not too much at that time. I was just doing it, but like I said, once you start doing it, you don't want to pay for it. So, next thing I know, we was having garage sales. I like searching for antiques and secondhand stuff. So we was doing pretty good at that. And opportunity came up to open our own store in Grand Island. So we opened a secondhand and slash antique store.
Nice.
Um, did like restorative work on antiques, different stuff like that. And that's when, I really started selling a lot of dope, stuff really started getting bad then. And um, we had the store for, maybe a couple years, I think it was. And uh, we just had a lot of you know, big guys that were coming to me and stuff. And so, they're dropping off, a lot of stuff and bringing me stuff. And I got people 2, 3 o'clock in the morning pulling up with truckloads of stuff to my store on the main street in Grand Island. And it don't take long before you get on their radar. And so they started investigating me, the task force, and um, doing surveillance. We couldn't even pull out of the store and we was getting pulled over. What are you guys doing here this late?
Yeah.
And me being me,
Yeah.
I'm a clown, and so I just I provoke stuff, and I'm hanging neon signs in my store saying drive through open late, and I'm like,
Oh man.
yeah, it was it got really bad, and I was running around, and uh next thing you know, I think my wife ended up going to jail for a few months, was on work release. And well, right before that, our store ended up burning down. Um, Lost everything.
Was that nefarious, or did something just accidentally happen?
Well, we think it was a lot to do, and from what I heard from sources, that it was a old Ford dealership with three different businesses, and they're running on one power box. But then the feds came in and they started putting in surveillance in our store, cameras, listening devices. Um, we found out that through the daughter of the owner of the building,
Wow.
and from where they say the fire started, it was where they had everything running to. So
Gotcha.
we think it was something like that, but we never did really
That
find
makes
out
sense.
what it was.
Yeah.
So we I lost the store. I think she ended up going to jail for a few months. Um, and then I was just really off the chain. I mean, I was staying out of motels and doing all this crap. And one day, I think I was going to court one day on sentencing for possession of a financial transaction device. So I wanted to come see her while she was on work release. Well, she wasn't there. Next thing I know, I drove down the street and the task force has her hemmed up. And I drive by him and I see him, and I'm just out of my mind. I drove by and flipped him off, turned around, went back up, went in the store, waited a few minutes, came back out, and the state patrols across the street. And I'm like, well, let's see what they got then.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was. It's either, you want to kill me, let's go. Because
Wow.
I was at the bottom. I was like, you know what? But I didn't have nothing on me, nothing like that. So when I pulled out, sure enough, they pulled me over.
Yeah.
And my wife's listened to the whole conversation. They're telling the state patrol to not arrest me because I think they had me on a buy that I was going to make. They had somebody set up to do a buy for me. And they ended up finding a knife in my car that was over the legal limit for a felon.
Got you.
And they arrested me. So I went to jail. Next morning, they filed habitual criminal on me. So I had, you know, the knife charge, which was 20 years, 0 to 20, and then the habitual criminal, which was looking at 10 to 60, minimum 10. And I think it was probably I sit in jail for almost a year going back for court. Uh, Went to court, and my lawyer was telling me you're probably going to get 0 to 2. They dropped the habitual criminal. I pled to the 0 to 20, and he said, "Well, you probably get 2 years." And my wife and my best friend were sitting in the back because I asked her to come with my wife, and the judge says, "Well, with the information I received," he says, "I don't have no choice but give you 10 to 13 years." so,
Oh.
so I'm like, you know, I remember because my wife looks over at her friend and said, "Did they just say 10, 13 years for a knife?" I said, "Yep." So back inside for that was 2015. I got out. I got locked up at the end of 14. Got out 2000 September 2020.
So you're in for, is that 6 years?
Yep, 6 years. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to do some math here. So to me, it seems like we're at about 23-ish years of incarceration.
Yep. Yep.
And at this point, you are, I don't know, what, 40, you're 40 something, early 40s?
52.
It,
Then at that
yeah.
time. Oh, probably. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you and I are the same age then, because I'm 52 as well.
Yeah.
Man. So at what age did you get out of that stretch?
I'm trying to think. Well, September 2020. So this is 24. I'd have been probably
So 48.
48, probably. Yeah. Yeah. 48. Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea that you were going through all that
Yeah.
recent.
Yeah. And my wife, she got clean like in 2015. And she's been clean ever since.
No kidding.
Yep. I was doing good. I went to work release. I got a job at James Skinner Bakery. I was doing setup. They asked me to go to production and wanted me to be a shift lead. So I took the position. They trained me on a shift lead, had to do all the mixes in the mixing room.
Yeah.
doing really good work there for, until I got out. I went there in December 19 from the work release
Uh-huh.
and was released in 2020. Was able to save up enough to where I got us a home in Bellevue, furnished the whole house. Uh, it was good because I walked out in 2020 with about $20,000. I was able to buy a brand new 2015 Silverado.
Yeah.
Doing real good credit score, nothing hanging over my head. Did good for till I got out parole in July 21, and
No,
went
there's
back.
not another but in here.
Oh yeah,
No.
there is.
No.
There is.
No.
Oh yeah, it's yeah.
Okay.
That I think
Okay.
that's what did it this time
And
because
Jerry is still with you through
he's
all of this and not using.
yep,
Man, the unconditional love um, that you've
yeah.
experienced, dude.
I
Your
I love
folks, Jerry, it's amazing. So, and we're also going to get to your scripture that I asked you about. We'll
yeah.
we'll do that at the end of this show because I want to unpack that a little bit with you too. Um, so we're 2021.
2021. Uh, I meet up a guy that I was working with, and we're talking about drugs, and I probably overdid myself because I'm working 80 plus hours a week. I mean, I was there 7 days a week, 80 hours. I mean, I
Yeah,
was humping, and I got out parole. I did a little coke, and next thing you know, for me that wasn't enough. I was back on the meth and trying to hide it from my wife at the same time and
yeah,
my folks and everybody. And next thing you know, I'm off and running. I'm selling, hooked up with the guy I was in the feds with, and I'm running again. And uh, I think it was March of 2022. Everything came to a head, and I headed to Grand Island on a whim. And don't ask me why. I ran out of gas in the country. It's one of those things when you're getting high and
yeah.
thinking people are out to get me, and stole a truck.
What?
Yeah, left my truck parked in front of this guy's house. It's registered to me, everything.
Yeah, yeah. So
And take his brand new Jeep Gladiator and head to Grand Island. And a few hours later, I'm getting busted and looking at 0 to 20 there. And then Aurora put charges on another habitual criminal again. And
yeah, but that was like 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and you're sitting here.
yep.
So I got to figure that out because I would have thought at this point you're going to be until you die.
I thought so too. Everybody did. My wife, everybody, my lawyers tell me you're going to get 13 to 17 years probably this time. You're done. And
Okay.
so, I there ain't nothing can say that it wasn't God that intervened and stepped into that, because there's no way that I should have gotten out. There's
Yep.
no way. I mean, there just wasn't. I wrote the judge a letter. I had completed a business program when I was in prison. Time before that, through Baylor University, it's a program called Rise, and they showed up in my sentencing hearing. The judge read over my letter, and she's like, "You know what, Mr. Ross?" She says, "I think you're done this time." She said, "I really, really think you're done." She says, "I'm going to probably give you one of the smallest sentences you've ever gotten." Man, all right, 2 to 4 years. I got to do a year to get out, and then 8 months on parole. And it was God. There's no reason why I should have got out of that.
Where did you do that?
Uh, this time they sent me out to Waseca, or not Waseca, but McCook, Nebraska. Was out there for most of it. Went through IOP. Went down to Lincoln work release for 39 days is all I had left before my parole. They paroled me out. Went to a halfway house here in Omaha. Yeah, they weren't letting me come back home this time. So
Yeah.
took me 3-4 months to find a job. I finally heard about this through a friend of mine, the peer support certification, do peer support work. So I went through 40 hours through Community Alliance for the peer support work and got certified. And one day I'm sitting there trying to find a job, and one day the director of the 180 reentry program here in Omaha's North Campus, Metro Community College, got a hold of me on Messenger and asked me, "Hey, you want a job? You want to come to work here?" So yeah, so one of the guys in the employment office that just helps guys coming out of prison find jobs did my resume, and we redid it, buffed it up, everything, and they hired me down there for a peer support mentor. And I think that was June of last year. So 3 months and a half way out, came home, started working there. Uh, just got promoted 3 months ago to now I took over the guy that helped me with my resume. I do all the resumes for people coming out of treatment, prison, federal prison. I meet with them, help them find jobs.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah. So.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm speechless, and that doesn't happen often. So I'll ask you some pointed questions.
Okay.
How long since you last used? Do you remember?
I'm trying to think exact date, but it would have been either March 22nd or the 29th of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're over 2 years.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I ask folks as I'm talking, because I talk to a lot of people that have had alcohol and drug problems and stuff, because I've had alcohol and drug issues and stuff, and so I've been sober for just over 21 years. And my history and my story.
Yep.
I'll get to why I'm asking this in a minute, but do you and Jerry, do you still mess with alcohol?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and I appreciate your honesty and your transparency, and there's no judgment in it.
Yeah.
I've seen so much failure from letting that seep into your life.
Yeah.
I would encourage you in this too. And this isn't a plug for you to buy this book, but
Yep.
if you'll buy my book, even if you don't want to and you want to hook up with me, I'll give you one because I think it's important.
Yeah.
I wrote a section about my feelings on alcohol. There's a section on faith too that I think will speak to you. Man, flirting with alcohol with your history it gives me pause, man, if I'm being honest with you. And
Yeah.
I'm not your dad. I mean, I'm not, I'm just giving you my honest feeling is the amount that you've been through and all that you've overcome. And everybody always thinks they've got a handle on everything, don't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I know this. Now, this is just going back in the day for me. So let's say that I just decided I'm not going to smoke crack and do coke anymore because those were my drugs.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm still going to go out once in a while and have some drinks. I know myself well enough back then that I could have been off coke for a couple of years. And if I'm messing with some alcohol, one night I just might have one beer too many. And a guy wants to cut a line for me in the back of the toilet seat at the bar.
Yep.
If I'm not drunk or even buzzed and at the bar, I'm not doing that line. But at that particular moment, I found that alcohol and the situations alcohol would have put me in, I believed it would have increased greatly the chances of me going backwards. And I just got to a place in life where there was no way I'm going backwards. The challenge I would put to you, and I'd put this to anybody in your situation, is how much do you love drinking, man? Because it's a risk. Every time you're doing it, it's a risk, and I'm all about freedom. The show's a ministry of freedom. I'm about freedom, dude. You're free to go do whatever in the heck you want. Just like me. People ask me all the time, so you can never go have a beer? I said, I can go have 100 beers if I want. I'm free.
Yeah.
I choose not to. I just, man, I'd hate to see that backtrack come into your life. But yeah, it's certainly, if you have a great handle on it and you believe that that's part of, your life, then, more power to you. But I would encourage you to at least consider having the conversation with yourself and with Jerry and say, what would life look like if we just really embraced what it's like to be really alert, present, and sober all the time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, man, if I could bottle that into a pill and let you feel how that feels
Yeah.
to be, not incarcerated and sober. I mean, like out in the world, living your life, helping other people, setting the example,
Yeah.
having your testimony that you have and walking in the freedom of sobriety. Man, if I could bottle that up and let you taste it, you'd never go back to that, to having a drink ever. But
Yeah.
it's just so hard to get people to go there.
Yeah.
I've had this same talk. I used to have this talk with you guys back at the dealership, because I remember I would talk with like you and King and those guys, and you would tell me, "Well, I've been sober for this many years." I'm like, "I just saw you. You went to the bar." "Oh yeah, but that's just drinking." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Bro, that ain't sober."
Yeah.
And but if you've been 2 years off the meth, dude, let's not discount that. That's
Yeah.
a huge win, brother. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to discourage you or discount that, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least try to leave you with, give a thought
Yeah.
to what would it look like?
Yeah.
Is it worth a shot?
Yeah.
And now, so your job that you're into sounds amazing,
Yeah.
and you have an opportunity to help people. And you're not just some young person that came right out of college and has never had struggles in life and is trying to tell them about the world. They see in you somebody that lived it,
Yeah.
somebody that can relate and understands their struggles. They can be open and honest with, and they can talk to you about the struggles that they're having. And you're helping these folks come out of the system and get into gainful employment, helping them with resumes, job placement, and these types of things.
Yeah.
I think that's astounding. That's a great calling, man. You feel fulfilled by that?
I do, and I'm going to school. I'm trying to finish up my associates for chemical dependency counseling.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'm doing that, straight A's.
So let me speak to you on that. I'm going to go back and keep beating you up on this.
Okay.
I love that you're getting straight A's. I'm not shocked by that at all.
Yeah.
You're a super smart guy. I always was like, man, you can tell this guy's bright. What will the degree be in?
Chemical dependency counseling, LADAC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could just consider this.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're walking out a totally sober existence, I think that your authority and your testimony when you're counseling these other people, I think it increases it, man.
Yeah.
And I think your words become weightier. And I think that you become more authentic in their eyes. Doesn't mean you're not honest about it, but in their eyes, I think there'd be a level of authenticity and transparency and respect that they would have for you, that maybe if you're out, pounding some beers a couple times a week or whatever, maybe it doesn't have the weight. So just consider that, because I think that's a great calling. Will you switch careers when your degree is done, or will this just be an add-on to what you're currently doing?
I think for a while, because I've got good retirement and everything where I'm at right now, and
Nice.
I mean the benefits are good, really good. So I mean, I plan on here at least minimum 4 years. I just took on another job too, because I worked there full time. I just got hired on at a Center Point Treatment Center for the weekends, so I'm going to be working there Saturday and Sundays.
What will you do there on
behavioral specialist? So probably teaching groups, doing group stuff like that.
It's an inpatient treatment center?
Yeah, inpatient. So I start there, I think the 27th.
Nice, man.
Just trying to occupy my time. It's 7 days a week, but my jobs are, it's not strenuous. It's a sit down job. So, and my wife works 6 days a week, so we still have our evenings, and I can do my practicum for my associates there as an intern. So
perfect.
Dude,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's real victory in this story. There's no doubt about it. You're certainly an overcomer. And when we talk about, I'm gonna pull this up on my screen here.
Okay.
I always ask guests, do you have a scripture? Because some guests are Christians, some aren't. Some people don't know the Bible, some people don't. You came up with a good one. Well, they're all good, but some scriptures speak to me a little bit more. So I looked this up in the New Living Translation. So you referenced Romans 10:9.
Yeah.
It reads from this translation, if you openly declare that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Nobody that's been on the show has brought up that scripture, and I haven't been directed towards that in a long time. Why did that speak to you? Is that something that you recently read? Is it something that you've been studying, or that somebody taught you something on?
I've known it. I mean, I know the Bible good. My mom's a pastor.
Really?
Yeah. So I went through 2 years of Bible college through Rema Bible College when I was in prison. I mean, I know the Bible. I've been out of touch with it for a long time, but
Yeah.
As far as that verse goes, I mean, basically, whatever you've done, it don't matter. I mean, as long as you confess to God
That's
and
right.
ask forgiveness, I mean, it don't matter what kind of life you've lived, and
That's right.
kind of sticks out. So
I love that. And it says, if you openly declare and you believe in your heart. So God knows our hearts.
yeah,
And once you have a heart moment for Christ and you're saved and you believe that in your heart, you have your place in heaven. And salvation is assured. And it's not because of striving or things that you've done wrong or things that you've done right.
yeah,
People mess that up a lot.
yeah,
It's free. It's a gift. It's been given you. And I like that you brought up earlier with your sentencing on that last go around. That's God showing up in your life in a tangible way.
yeah,
And I think it's great that you recognize it, because when there's a lot of things in our lives that happen, we're like, I can't explain that other than something supernatural happened here. And I think when we have our spiritual eyes kind of keened in on that stuff, honed in, our spiritual senses will show us those areas that God is really truly moving in our lives in the supernatural. And I think you experienced it. There's no explanation to why you're sitting in a chair right now, and obviously a really nice home. I can tell you've got a nice place. You're in Bellevue. You're with your wife. You've got a career. You're going to school. There's no way you should be anywhere but locked up or dead, dude.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, really? That's
yeah,
where you should probably be. One of those two places,
yeah,
according to quote unquote the world.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I've had a couple overdoses. I mean, in intensive care, and so yeah, I shouldn't be sitting here right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I feel the same about myself. There's no way that I got sober and had a heart and life change like I've had apart from a supernatural experience.
Yeah,
There's just no way. And thus the book, and that's the title of the book. The title of the book, I asked God to kill me. I mean, I just was done. I didn't want to do it anymore, man.
yeah,
Um, you didn't know me when I was running around crazy. Now I wasn't at your level,
yeah,
but I was partying pretty good. I never sold drugs. I always believed they were for buying and doing,
yeah,
and that would keep me out of most trouble.
yeah,
But I will tell you, man, that I can relate to everything that you've been through. I haven't been incarcerated, but the addiction and how that grabs a hold of you, you and I aren't that different.
yeah,
I've been fortunate in a lot of areas, and you got caught a couple times,
yeah,
and that's the big difference. Um, so I don't, man, I have so much respect for where you're at and what you're doing, and my hope and prayer is that you'll continue to look for those areas that God's moving in your life. Um, do you and Jerry, do you talk about the things of God? Do you pray? Do you go to church? Where are you at in your faith life?
probably none of them things. I mean, she believes too. I mean,
Does it
um,
ever come up in your job? Um, do people talk to you about that? Because I know a lot of people will find Christ when they're incarcerated. Maybe they come out, and I was just wondering if you're allowed to talk about that kind of stuff, or does that ever come up?
it does. I mean, there's been a couple people in my director. She's real. She has her past. She's been in prison and she runs a program now. And
Nice.
her husband's a pastor. So I mean, we've had conversations too. So it's
Yeah.
my mom has a conversation with me every day. So
So let's speak to that. I'm glad you brought that up. So your folks are both still alive
yep,
and
yep,
married and together all this time?
yep,
Oh
yep,
man, that's awesome. Good for you. And they live in Grand Island,
yep,
and you still have relationship with them because you said you speak to your mom all the time.
yep. Yep.
And they have loved you and stuck with you, brother.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
My mother's done the same with me, and there's times that I haven't been the greatest son, and
Yeah.
she shows me a lot of grace, and I love her more than anybody on earth. She's a wonderful lady. I lost my dad back in 2008, and you were around then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember you being around when that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a blessing that you have those folks in your life. And I know you have a couple children. And if this is too personal, just say I don't want to talk about that. Do you have a relationship with your kids?
You know what? I did when I first was selling cars. I met I had two daughters and one
Mhm.
son. The oldest daughter, it took her a long time to. I've seen her on MySpace, but it took a long time for her to acknowledge, "Oh, that ain't me. That I'm not your daughter."
Sure.
And she finally did, and then we started a relationship, and yeah, then I was back to getting high again, and
Yeah.
she
Your
tried to give me
priorities
her,
changed.
yeah, and she tried to give me another chance. Now, she's got a grandkid. I got a grandkid with now, but she don't have nothing. I've never met my youngest daughter. I've never had a chance to have a conversation.
Gotcha.
Uh, my son, I've had some conversations with, but they just, you know, it hurts because
Yeah.
and I understand. They block me from social media and stuff, and
Yeah.
but I don't blame them. As much as
Yeah. I understand.
yeah,
I would say all you can do at this point is start from right now and live each day as a man that they would be proud to have in their life.
yeah,
You can't go back and erase that other stuff and that hurt and that pain, and you can't go undo the things that you've done. But each day when you get up, man, what a great opportunity. And I think as you string more of those days together, the chances of them wanting a relationship with you go up.
yeah,
And all you can do is focus on you, focus on helping other people. My big thing is personal excellence is the line I use all the time. You just focus on being the best that you can be and ask yourself, and yeah, alcohol is one of those things, but with a lot of things,
yeah,
is this helping me get to my highest self? Is this helping me become the person that I know I'm destined to be? And that's the benchmark I try to use on a lot of things. Whether it's shoot, it can be food, it could be alcohol, certainly drugs, all those things. If your life isn't better and more fulfilling and taking you to a better place each time you use those things, why are they in your life? And that's the question I pose in the book as well. We
yeah,
have to weigh that stuff out. Is it worth me agreeing that my life isn't what it could be to have this in it? Um, so I always want to put that challenge to people. And I'm trying to find the grace and do it in a way that isn't throwing judgment because I'm not trying to come across judgy and
no,
preachy.
no, no,
Um, but I care enough about you to say, man, you've been through so much, and especially now, man, you're an influencer, not some cheeseball social media influencer, a
yeah,
real life influencer, man, that's
no,
impacting people's lives every day in a time when they're very vulnerable and in need of somebody they can respect and look up to guide them. That's a huge responsibility that you have, bro.
yeah. It is, and
And it's really a great opportunity. It's a good thing, and you're the perfect guy for it, man. I think that's amazing.
thank you. Yeah,
Um, I am really glad that we got a chance to connect, dude.
yeah, yeah,
I don't even know how it happened. I don't even like Facebook. I was the guy that said for 30 years, 20 years, I'm never going to be on Facebook. And I ended up, because of the book and podcast and stuff, it is what it is. I'm not a big fan of social media, but I do jack with it a lot now. How did we end up? Did you send me a message just one day or what the
yeah.
heck?
I sent you a message. I think I said I see you're doing good things.
Oh,
And like I told Jerry, I said, you know what? I said, Jim gave me chance after chance when I sold a car. He knew the wreck I was, and I mean but you gave me a lot of chances, and I mean, you know, you treated me good, and
yeah.
I had to wear long sleeve shirts all the time, but
Right. And again, I wouldn't even care now
yeah, yeah,
about that. It's just a different day. But my heart is for second chances and
yeah,
third chances, and I think we need to be people that don't give up on people.
Yeah.
And I try to exercise that even today in my life, and through areas of forgiveness, because I tend to be a little bit stubborn in those areas too,
Yeah.
receiving it and giving it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good word to finish up on, especially for you. Maybe that might resonate. You need to forgive other people. You need to forgive you primarily, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the tough stuff. You receive that forgiveness and operate in that and from that reality, and
Yeah.
just keep seeking the things of God. Listen to what your mom says once in a while, man.
Oh, I know it. I know it.
And pick up a Bible once in a while, or a Christian book or whatever. And you know what? Once in a while, maybe I'll message you on Facebook and send you a scripture that's speaking to me, and just
Yeah.
say, "Hey, check this out if you get a chance." Because I try to do that stuff with dudes once in a while if they're on my heart. So if you see those things, don't be alarmed. And if I'm Bible beating you too much, say, "Hey, bro, lay off."
No,
Um,
you're
but I want to, I'd like to keep in touch and to keep encouraging you. And maybe we can
yeah.
get together and have a
Yeah.
meal or have a cup of coffee. And
Yeah.
I'd like to have you in my life again, man, because I respect you. I like you. Your story's inspiring, and I thank you for coming on and sharing it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to finish up with before we're done? You got any final thoughts, or do you want to tell people how they could get a hold of you on social or any of that good stuff? If so, go ahead.
Usually I'm on Facebook. James Ross is my Facebook. Uh, if people are in need or coming out of prison or needing help with anything, whatever it may be, jobs, education, housing. Uh, I work at Metro 180, the North Campus, in the reentry program, and people can walk in anytime and just tell them they need help. And they're a really good program. They do a lot of good things for people. I mean, really good program. It's
That's
good.
amazing. It's a great place to finish. So I'm going to hit the stop button, but don't run away, because I'll talk to you a few minutes when we're
Okay.
done.
All right.
Thank you so much. And let's try to do this again, brother. I
All right.
appreciate you.
Sounds good. Thanks.